Hello and welcome to the No Name Prayer Podcast. I am your host, Monica. Let us begin our daily devotional from the Be Still book. Let every man be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. James 1 verse 19. We have countless opportunities to talk with people whose opinions differ from ours. How do we interact with them? Are we gracious or judgmental? Do you listen to or talk at people? Do we treat those who are different as them and thank God that we are us? There is so much at stake. A cultural retreat into a Christian bubble is not an option. This means we have got to learn how to communicate winsomely with people who believe differently than we do. This doesn't mean that we compromise or blend in. It means we engage in a positive way that invites dialogue. This is going to require listening. All too often, when we listen, we are actually preparing to make our next point. People can sense this, and it usually shuts down the discussion pretty fast. I think it would make a big difference if we started saying things like, "Please tell me more about that." Or, "I don't know, let me give that some thought and come back to discuss it later." Or, "I'd really like to learn from you in this way." People rarely remember our arguments, but they always remember if they felt respected or belittled in our presence. It's always a help when we continuously look for ways we can create a connection to people with whom we disagree. For example, although we might have a very different way in which we feel the dignity of life should be protected, it's possible that a bridge can be built by discussing our mutual desire to see people experience freedom, respect, and dignity. We can search for values that we share with others and build on that. If the person we're talking to begins to get heated and defensive, it's worth at least considering the possibility that his or her reaction is related to a trigger, a painful event previously experienced. We have the opportunity to love and listen compassionately. This will be remembered far longer and more positively than us managing to get a couple more of our points made. The truth is, people remember a story far better than an argument. Anytime we can simply share the difference that Christ has made in our lives, walls tend to come down. It's hard to argue with someone's personal experience. There's too much at stake for us to keep winging it. It's time to educate ourselves in terms of meeting people in the middle with both truth and love. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. John 13, verse 35. Dear Lord, may I be quick to listen and slow to speak. Amen. Heavenly Father, with so much negativity going on in the world, so many people being hurt, so many people being angry, so much animosity towards different people that we see as not like us. I ask you to change our hearts, to open our hearts and our minds, Lord, to be Christ for others, to show others Christ's love the way you would want us to, Lord. It's okay to be different. It's okay to disagree just because people disagree, especially in families. It doesn't mean that they don't love each other. It just means that they think differently, and it's okay. Lord, I just ask you that during those moments that we encounter someone who is not in agreement with our beliefs and our opinions, I ask you to give us the wisdom and the discernment to be kind, to show love, to show compassion, to show understanding, but also to remain faith in what we know and share, like it says, our experiences. Help me remember the things that you have done for me in those moments, Lord, so that I may share those experiences with you. I've had so many different encounters with you, Lord, so many things where I've prayed and you've answered me on the spot through someone else. Help me remember those things so that I share them. And as I'm saying this, there's something that came to my mind that I just remembered. Well, I didn't forget about it, but at this moment it just came to me. When I was in 2010, when I was pregnant with my son. I was pregnant. I did not know I was having a son. My husband and I, we were going to find out, but it was too soon. I was only 4 months, and I went to a women's retreat, a Women of Grace retreat, in, I believe it was Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly. And it was a group of about 27 women from my parish. We all traveled to Pennsylvania to go on this retreat. Again, I didn't know what I was having. It was a women's retreat. We were going. The first night was Friday night, and we started with Mass. The priest read from the book of Jeremiah, and when they gave us a little bag, like a goodie bag at the retreat when we got there, and it had like a notepad, some pens, and some cute little things like that. So during the Mass, and the priest is giving his homily after the reading and things, and well, first of all, during the reading, during one of the readings, they were reading, like I said, from the book of Jeremiah, and I really liked that name, so I wrote it down in my notepad. And then they spoke about Josiah, King Josiah. I like that name too, so I wrote that name down as well. Mind you, I didn't know what I was having, but I like both names, so I wrote them down on my notepad. And I'm talking to the Lord, and I asked him, "What name do you like?" That was my first question to him that weekend. And I just wrote down the names, like I said, and I put a question mark next to the names, and I didn't give it much thought. Saturday, we continued with the retreat. We went to our prayers, confession, different talks throughout the day. The whole weekend, they were reading from the book of Jeremiah. I think you guys might have heard me mention before that my favorite readings are from Jeremiah 29:11, Jeremiah 1:5. Look them up. Anyway, so Saturday we had Mass and different talks and things like that, and this is Saturday night, and Jeanette, I think her last name was Benkovich at that time. She's from EWTN. She's awesome. Well, she was leading the rosary, the seven sorrows of Mary, and that was our meditation for that night. And during that meditation, I was praying, obviously along, but the last 7 Hail Marys I really, really got into my prayer, and I was praying for my child, the child in my womb, and I just kept saying, "Lord, this is your child. This is your son." I kept saying son. I kept referring to the baby as a boy. And again, I didn't know what I was having yet. So during the prayer, I just kept saying, this is your son. I give him to you. I want him to do your work. I want him to be a soldier for Christ. I want him to be a priest, prophet, king, Lord. And I just kept praying over my child and giving him to the Lord, consecrating him to Jesus, to God. And I'm praying, and I'm saying all these things. And I was just really, really speaking to the Lord and just telling him, this is what I want, but may your will be done. This is what I want. I want my son to be a priest. I want him to bring people to you. I want him to lead people to Christ. I want him to preach your word. I want him to go out there and just evangelize and be a soldier for you. And I was just going in, just talking to him, praying, praising him, thanking him. But I just kept telling him, may your will be done. Well, first of all, I did not share any of my prayers during the retreat with anyone, my question to God about the name or anything like that. When I was praying, it was not a vocal prayer at that moment. Everyone was praying the rosary, So I was just praying. It was mental prayer. Well, after they were done with the rosary, the lady in front of me, she turns around and she goes, oh my goodness, I just had a vision with you. Now mind you, I'm pregnant, got my belly, I'm sitting behind her, I'm on the second row, she's in the front row. And again, I did not say anything to anyone about my prayer. And she turns around and she says, I just had a vision with you. I said, oh yeah? She goes, yes, you're having a son. I was like, whoa. She goes, you should call him Jeremiah. And at that point, I was like, Lord, you are amazing. It's like, you should call him Jeremiah. And he will be prophet, priest, prophet, and king. He will work for the Lord. I'm like, oh my goodness. At that point, I started crying. Crying. And now because, he's answering my prayers. My prayers in the last 24 hours, he's just, everything I said, she repeated back to me. And it was like he was letting me know he was listening. And I was just like, wow, Lord, you are amazing. So when she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Did I upset you? And I said, no, you didn't upset me. And then I told her why I was crying. And then she was just amazed that God worked so quickly. But God knows what we need when we need it. And he's just amazing that way. So I don't know why I needed to share this, but that's what I had in my heart to share as I was praying. I hope you guys enjoyed today's podcast. I pray you guys have an awesome day. I am sorry that I did not post yesterday. It was my wedding anniversary, so we just kind of spent some time together. But God bless you. Continue the good fight. Don't give up. God is with you. I am praying for you. My wonderful listeners, please pray for me.